maybe, I don't know. So that's that. That's our pyramid and then the different elements of the pyramid. I've got a page on here of soccer terminology, and if you don't know what it is, you can ask or look it up. There's really no room to put a definition for everything. And on the back is pretty self-explanatory. It's the number system. The number system, if you aren't aware, is every player on the field has a number, and they all have meaning to them. So number 1 is the goalkeeper, 2 is a right back, 3 is a left back, 4 and 5 are the center backs. They all have specific numbers and meanings. And at the high school, we use it very often. That's how we give positioning. For me, if I tell a kid we're going to play a 4-3-3 and I need 2 6s and a 10, they know that we're playing a 4-3-3, meaning 4 defenders, and we're playing 4 across the middle, but I'm going to have 2 6s, which is center defensive mids, and a 10, which is a center attacking mid. And they know that we're still obviously going to incorporate a 9, which is a striker, a 7, which is a right mid, and an 11, which is a left mid, which is a lot of information. And I'm not expecting you to know that, because when they're 8 and 9 years old, none of this even matters. But if you are a U14 coach and you are coaching them right before they get to high school, if they're somewhat familiar with it, and even if you take this and you make copies of it and give it to them and say, hey, just familiarize yourself with it, they're going to be more comfortable transitioning into the high school setting. It's part of bridging the gap between youth player and high school player, is the knowledge and is the kind of the cheat sheet a little bit, getting them ready for the high school setting, and especially college. Because we only talk in numbers in college. At least I only talked in numbers in college, mostly because everybody that I was coaching was from Nigeria or anywhere else in the world. So that's our curriculum. Again, please don't take this as I'm trying to tell you what to do. I'm here as a resource. I want to be a guide. I want to be able to help you guys as best as possible. If you have questions, if you have concerns, if you have any problems, shoot me a text, call me, I'll come to your practices. I plan to be there this spring and every season, so yes.
When you go over like drills for all these different levels, is there any chance you'd cover what formation you feel would be most helpful for them? So if I'm like moving up and my goal is to play high school soccer someday, and they're playing 7v7, what's the best formation for them then? When they're playing, you know what I'm saying, as they're going
definitely.
up, in your mind, what's the best lineup
way to
for them?
transition from 7v7 to 11v11.
Right.
I can give you a rundown if you'd like.
That'd be great.
So in each age, obviously, there's different ways you can play. Oliver Condell is my executive director coaching with Challenger South. He has informed me that I can take all of my curriculums and all that stuff that he's given me it's the Challenger curriculum, and I'm going to just upload it on there. It's going to have different formations. How I've done things in the past, if they're 7v7 and you get 6 players on the actual field and you get a goalkeeper, I do what's called, and then because I have a whiteboard right here, because I'm in the classroom, I do the 2 triangles, because for me, the young players know what? They know colors and they know shapes and they know numbers, kind of know numbers a little bit, but they know shapes. And one of the first groups, and I'll point it out, one of the first groups that I really implemented this with was Nathan's team when I was at Upper 90. So you have, we'll start down here. So you have your center back here, you've got a right defender, a left defender, you have a right mid, and you have a left mid. So this is how I do it, okay? And your goalkeeper is down here, okay? It's pretty simple, it's incredibly basic. The nice thing is, when they move up to 9v9, it transitions nicely. So when you do this, if I know my kids know that they're supposed to be in an upside down triangle, and I tell my 2013s who are U9s, and I look at Grayson, he's a boy that plays defender, he loves playing defender, but he often likes to be my center back. I say, Grayson, what shape do you guys need to be in right now? Oh crap, an upside down triangle. Now typically, you would think as a coach, I gotta move this. Dude, drop back, you gotta drop back, you gotta move here, and you're telling them where to go. If I look at them and say, Grayson, what shape you need to be in? He goes, oh, a triangle. Oh, he backs up, he looks at his teammates, all right, good, I'm in a triangle. I don't have to what I call joystick that player. I don't have to position myself, because as long as I can reference this, and we've referenced it 100 times at training, they're gonna know. Now when I teach this, oftentimes people say, well, when do you coach this in practices? I never coach this in practices, ever, because I would waste a whole training session trying to position them in a practice with no opposition. When I get into games, if this is what I want to focus on in that game, that's all I care about focusing on. It's part of that, pick something in your game, focus on it. Don't stress about nothing else. If you're down 20-0, I've been down 20-0 before against the club I coach for now. Worry about this. And if the kid comes off and they did exactly what you asked, celebrate it with them. High five them, make sure you say, Grayson, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Dude, you were positioned perfectly. I didn't have to say anything to you. And he smiles and gets all, oh great, now I'm going to go out there and I'm going to do it again because coach just basically told me I'm his favorite player. Which I tell every kid they're my favorite player. So then obviously the next progression is 9v9. So actually I'll leave this here. So 9v9, we have 8 players on the field. You can do a couple different things. How I do it is when I go to build my house later this year, maybe, if it's not super expensive, it's still going to be expensive. I'm never going to move out. Is I like a strong foundation. So my next, when you think in practicality, is now I have 2 of these guys here. I'm only adding 1 player here. And then the next objective is now I can make the field a little bigger because I can stick somebody up top. So now your base is good. You have a strong foundation. And you're probably not going to get scored on as many times because now you've got 4 guys defending, ideally. But
Are you saying 4-3-1? Are you calling it that or not really? Okay.
Yeah, you could. Because the next step is this. Because at the high school I played, I'm kind of stuck on the 4-3-3 because I think you can do a lot with it. The Bumblebee coaches, if you're not familiar with soccer and you're listening to this, just completely ignore me. Because the next step is obviously now we're adding in a couple more players. So now you've got 9, so you have to do 2 more players. So now these guys get a little bigger, the field gets a little bigger. We stick with the 4 in the back. Now I throw in a guy here, and I throw 2 guys here, which you can alternate, but that's how I like to do it.
They're in a straight line.
Oh, no.
No?
No, they can alternate. I mean, it's fluid, I would say. The nice thing about this is now, and I can get into specifics. I know this is dragging on because we want to go play soccer. That's why you guys actually came here. Is if I get into a game situation like I did against Brunswick, which we successfully held Brunswick to 1 goal, which was fantastic. And it was scored by anyone other than the 1 kid I didn't want him to score, which was Josh Lord, who the head coach and I have been friends for years and years, tweets and puts on every bit of social media who his best player is. So I told Jacob Oakley, I said, Jacob, you're going to babysit him today, and that's the only kid you're going to follow all day. That's who you're going to babysit. I don't care if you have nothing to do in the game. You're going to babysit him. But I did that because he played, when we went into the game, we had 1 guy here, and I had 2 guys up here. Okay, so I just took him out of it, and now these guys just kind of move up and down. So that was that in that instance, but the nice thing is you can do that. If you have a game where you're trying to fill the box all the time, this guy sits here, you have 1 6, and you have 2 8s, or you can call them 2 10s. So then you load the box. Let's say you play a team with a terrible defensive line, and you just want to terrorize them. There you go. It's fluid, you can, and that's why I do it that way, is because when they're 7v7, you're not really going forward as much as you are going side to side, because you don't have somebody sitting up top that you just slip the ball through. It's easy when they're 8. If I had the fastest kid on the team, which I have at times, had the fastest kid on the team, of course I can lift the ball up and over his head and let my fastest kid go and score goals. It's great, it's fun, because you score a lot of goals. But if we're playing with the 2 upside down triangles, and I look at my center mid and say, hey, what shape we gotta be in? Little Susie, what shape we gotta be in? Little Jimmy, what shape? Oh, a triangle. And then it's easy coaching because you don't have to stress about telling a kid where to go. Now you're always going to have 1 kid that's out in outer space and just is picking dandelions. We've all had it. I have it now. And I just make him sit and watch. But for me, I need to make my job easier because there's 100 other things I want to focus on. I want to focus on technical stuff. I want to focus on making sure that when my kids tackle, they tackle hard. I'm training pit bulls. I call them pit bulls and I call them puppies. And if I look at a kid and I say, you're going to be a puppy today, you're going to be a pit bull. They don't really like being called puppies that often. But now I can say guppies. You want to be a guppy or you want to be a shark? So that, as far as formations, and I'll send all the documentation out to you guys. Like having all the people that I have in my corner and the relationships that I've made and all the friends that I have, and I find it's best that, and I've learned in life, if you're just good to people, they'll help you. I now have in my possession Medina's curriculum, I have Olmsted Falls curriculum, I have the Challenger curriculum, I have my curriculum that I made when I was at another club that never got used, and like I have all these resources. I have access to Tom Turner and the State Association. Like I want to bring this all to you, and whatever it is you want, I want to make sure, you know, as your director of education and coaching, we can give it to you. Because I want us to be the best. I want to win a state championship, whether Ignatius is still around or not. That's my goal. And you have to start somewhere. And we're not gonna be able to reap the reward next year or the following year. This is a long-term plan of kind of focusing ourselves on developing these kids the right way, because the long term is those bumblebees I want winning a state championship. And it sounds crazy to think because they're little, and we all think it's going to take forever to get there, but it's going to get there because I have kids that I had coached when they were 8 years old that are now 2 years into college, and it is really terrifying because I'm not 30 yet. So, yeah. But I wanted to end this portion of it by opening up the floor to questions, concerns, thoughts. You know, what do you guys want to see improved? What do you like? What don't you like? And how can I help us fix those things?
Oh, sure, look at me. I would think, oh, go ahead.
Just kind of general question. So I coach U10. Kids I've had was from U8, you know, U9, U10. But even last year, you know, you get once in a while at that age group, you get a new player. I understand teaching them, you know, the responsibility of decision making. But when you got a new player, it's like you almost have to work separate with them.
Yeah, I mean you have
They're
to.
not going to know what the other kids know. They've been playing for 3 years.
Right. Of course. Of course. Again, it kind of goes to this. This is kind of something we will implement over time. You know, I'm looking at the Bumblebee group because this is going to be the first true group that kind of starts to experience it. It's our job to really try and get them all. How do I want to phrase this? You're not going to catch everyone up to speed. They're not all going to be, you know, it's not all going to happen perfectly.
Right.
But if you, let's say for instance, and we're going to do it over in the gym, if your team is struggling technically at U10, which, okay, they're 9, 10 years old, they should be struggling still. There's ways you can still incorporate the stuff going on in here and make it a technical session. I do it with the high schoolers, and I do it specifically to prove a point with my high schoolers. We can play rondo, and I'll set my 4 cones and make my square, and the 2 kids in the middle will have a ball at their foot. Okay, and typically in rondo, you want to try and steal the ball, right? It's the ideal way of winning the game. When you have a ball at your foot, all you need to do is tag that guy. But if you've not been working on your technical game, or you haven't been training your technical game, you're stuck in the middle because you're struggling, because you're having to balance the ball at your foot and move around with it quickly and still trying to tag somebody, and that ball is not going to move slow. So there's ways to catch them up to speed without having to say, well, Coach Dalton said that you guys need to be X, Y, and Z.
But you're talking about a kid that's never played soccer before, right?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big, when you have a 10-year-old that have played for
For
a long time, and then you have a 10-year-old that's never touched a soccer ball.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if we had something for those kids that we could do with them to help try to catch them up?
I had 12 and 13-year-olds, Don and I coached, that never played soccer before, that came in, and I'd have almost premier level to, I don't know how to touch a soccer ball. And you have to combine them in one practice.
Mhm.
What I try to do is
Right.
pair up like Chris Payne, some of the other more
Mhm.
skilled players, and be like, hey, you're gonna mentor this kid, and when
Right.
you see him
That's
messing
awesome.
up, because you can't watch everybody at the same time. But then too,
Mhm.
I would run back through the basics, and then the kids that are excelling at the basics, they move on to something more advanced within the same drill. So they can only do it with their left foot. So it's kind of, I don't know if that helps you
No,
at all,
yeah, no,
but.
it does, yeah.
Yeah, it's, I 100% think that's a great thing to do. There's lots of flexibility in it, because again, every kid's gonna develop differently. I've had kids that have been with me for years and years and years and are the exact same way they were when I got them. And I also have kids that have come to me and were a weaker player and are now one of the best players. They develop at their own pace. If you put them in situations that they're going to be successful, and still have that opportunity to work on things maybe from a previous portion of our curriculum, they'll be fine. Like the rondo is just an example. I do 1v1s with players, and my kids right now are U9, so everything we do is technically involved. But I do 1v1s where we'll do it over there again. A lot of us we're going to do over there, but every kid has a ball at their foot. And it's, allowing those kids that, if you're not good with your foot skills, the other guy may be okay with his foot skills, but guess what? Now he's in the same situation I am, and I have some time to think about what I want to do. It gives me time to kind of decide how to approach a situation, the decision-making part of it. Right? If I'm the weaker player and I'm struggling, maybe he trips and falls because he's not paying attention and is overeager. But you want to slow the game down enough for everybody to develop the technical portion of the game, and you can. That's how you implement it. And I would be happy to come out and work with whoever, and I want to come out and work with the kids. I know right now you're getting foot skills or whatever it is that's going on, but there's ways we can work around it.
You asked what we're weak at. I
Okay.
feel like we foot skill a lot, but the kids still aren't good at them. Like
Okay.
they're like, oh, foot skills again, and even when you introduce new ones, they're still I think the three things that I see, for at least mine, and I see it a lot, is foot skills, passing, and decision-making.
Mm-hmm.
We're slow. Like when we play the really good club teams or the really good teams that we're playing indoors, that's what they get us on. We're not as quick.
And I think, I've been humbled recently too with foot skills, because for the longest time, foot skills for me, I could sit here and show you some crazy stuff and fancy skills, and it doesn't mean anything. What I have learned is my kids at my club that are my team now, they're receiving the ball really nicely, because the last practice and the last, God, how many months have we been indoors? It feels like forever, because winter lasts forever. But every other training session, we're doing something where they can't use the same part of their foot twice in a row. So that's where we start to think about foot skills and technical, not so much about how well can you do scissors. We have skill sets. I have 4 skill sets for them that they learn, which is maybe something we can talk about introducing. And they know that they're to practice those skill sets. But as far as when I think technical, it's comfortability on the ball. It's how often are they having to stare down at the ball to make decisions, versus they have a feel for it, they know where it is at all times. So that way, when we progress into maybe passing and receiving, their touch is automatically great because the ball's been at their foot. When I was a kid, I walked around my house and still walk around the house with, when I was younger, it was a tennis ball, but now it's like a squishy soccer ball, because I'm a grown-up and have adult money. And so I know where the ball is at all times. But that was habits I developed, and that's how I try and teach the kids, is if they're at practice and they're walking around with the ball, at any given point, if you're in a training session and let's say you're doing what I call dribble tag, which I've included in here, while they're moving, you can't use the inside of your foot. You can't use the outside of your foot today. You have to use every other part of it, and you can't use it twice in a row, but you can't use the bottom, whatever it is. Putting restrictions on stuff and giving them limitations and then removing them That's how we're going to make them more technical. And if you have a team that's U13 and they're struggling technically, call me, and I will show up every week with you and we'll work on it. Or call me and we'll set something up and a plan in place for them to get caught up technically. I'm big on technical because I think it gives us a really strong foundation for every other part of the game. I can tell you my game plan for every game. If my kids come in and I say, hey, listen, today we're going to, like, for instance, North Ridgeville's outside backs last year were terrible. So we pretty much just attacked their outside backs at all times. And I don't know if you've ever seen Ryan Runzer play. Ryan Runzer is very fast. And we kind of shimmied away from our regular style of play. Now, if I don't have a player in the middle that can service a ball to him properly and is over-servicing it or is under-servicing it and it's coming to his butt instead of his front foot, that's completely destroying everything I'm trying to accomplish. Because tactics don't matter if they can't, they don't know what to do with the ball. So yeah, that's kind of the sum of it. You guys have any other questions? Any other concerns? We feeling okay? Have I bored you? I've probably bored you. This is boring stuff. I hate sitting in my classes. So yeah, we'll reconvene in the gym. Oh, it's 7:23, so they should be out of there. Take like 5-10 minutes. I'm gonna kind of go get stuff set up in the gym, and then we'll meet you guys in there at 7:30 if that's okay.